They had a place. We sold the street down there.
See, this is what I was talking about. You know who you're talking about.
But I like it because it was like another.
Oh, I remember. Oh, he was nuts. Fortunately, totally changed. His last name began with O.
Inland waterway pretty much covers much as
It's officially 9:30. We'll call the meeting to order, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. The roll, please.
Commissioner Luck,
Here.
Commissioner Cardiac,
Here.
Commissioner Silveraja,
Here.
Commissioner West,
Here.
Commissioner Kamash,
Here.
Commissioner Schulte.
Here.
Okay, and the first item is review of checks issued from Finance and Central Services and from Human Services. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Then we have approval of the minutes from the January 30th County Board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Under Chair's remarks, we have a couple of items. Now, although it may not be in our minds right now with the cool weather that we've had, mosquitoes are always on the minds of the Metropolitan Mosquito Control District staff. I'd like to ask Commissioner West to introduce our special guest today. Commissioner West.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my honor to serve on the Metropolitan Mosquito Control District. I have since I've been on the county board, and it is a very interesting and enjoyable committee to be on. And we're fortunate in Anoka County to have an abundance of wetlands and waterways. But one trade-off with these valuable resources is mosquitoes. And while you may think that they're just annoying, it's important to remember that they transmit dangerous diseases. Joining us today is Dr. Stephen Manweiler, who is here to talk all things mosquitoes. Stephen is MMCD's Executive Director. And I'd like to welcome you, Stephen, and ask that you introduce your team to us.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, everybody. Before I start, two other colleagues of mine who are both right-hand men of mine, Mike McLean handles the public education and outreach at the district, and Dave Dirkswager is the manager of the facility that delivers services to the citizens in Anoka County. So we thank you very much for your time, and I've got a short presentation that I hope will be informative, and we have a new story to tell as well. There's a new mosquito-borne disease that's rearing its head, so I'll talk mainly about that.
Great.
How do you start this?
Welcome.
There we go. Briefly this morning, I'll review the governance of the district, a little bit about our 2018 levy and budget, and then get into the meat of the presentation, which is mosquito biology and control. If you understand the biology, our control operations make a lot more sense. We'll talk about disease prevention and several different diseases that are out there, how we respond to all of them, and then very briefly some plans for 2018. The district was established in 1958. We're governed by a board of 18 county commissioners from the 7 counties that comprise the district. We provide services to about 2,900 square miles, about half the population of Minnesota. We have mapped 70,000 wetlands, 30,000 woodlands, and 220,000 catch basins. There are lots of different places mosquitoes can grow, and over the last 60 years, the district has kept extensive records of those areas. Commissioner West talked about your extensive wetlands, and they're everywhere. It's one thing that makes working for mosquito control nice is you get to go out in these beautiful places. On the other hand, you get to know you're making life better for citizens. Here is our commission for 2018, and usually we don't have very much change from year to year on our commission, which is really helpful for us because the more experience you have with the commission, the more you understand the control, and the easier it is for us to work together to decide how best to continue to deliver services. On the other hand, 3 commissioners served the district from Anoka County for a long time, And there's recently some change. I'd really like to thank Commissioner Sivraja and Commissioner Brostad for many, many years of support. Jim Kordiak has returned, Commissioner Kordiak has returned after many years off the commission, and Commissioner Gamache joins us. Commissioner West is part of our executive committee. So new blood, returning experienced blood, and longtime experienced blood will make a really nice mix for us. So
I
thank you.
return with the mixed blessing. I figured that we would have solved this problem by now. I'm back, we're going to try it again.
Well, mosquitoes have been around for a long time. I'm not so sure humans are smart enough to be able to get rid of them completely, but at least we're able to make it tolerable most of the time. Very briefly, this very busy slide shows 5 years of some levy and budget information. Basic take-home is our budget was held steady for 3 years. We finally increased it in 2018. Sooner or later, healthcare and those kinds of things catch up with you. Our levy also was kept steady since 2010 until 2016. We had 3 extremely wet years, 2014, 2015, and 2016, that hit our reserves pretty hard. To deliver services, we spent a lot of our reserves, so we're in the process of working with our commission to make sure that the district has the resources it needs for near-term and long-term delivery of services. Let's get into, well, I'm an entomologist by training, and the biology is more interesting to me. The biology, though, is the key to our program. Mosquitoes develop like butterflies or moths. That is, they start as an egg, they hatch into an immature called a larva, they grow as a larva. In the case of mosquitoes, they go through 4 larval stages, and that's in the water. Then they switch to a pupa, which is like the chrysalis of a butterfly. That's also in the water. Within 2 days, they transform into a winged adult. Egg to adult in the wetlands in the summer can happen as fast as 7 days. We have about a 3.5 day to 4 day period to treat the larvae in the water when the larvae are young enough to treat, and it's based on how the control materials work. The main thing to remember is when it rains, we have to get out there fast, and we have to do a lot of work very, very quickly, and the district's programs have been designed to accomplish that. This slide shows a number of different species of mosquitoes. Don't worry about remembering the names. There are 2 things that are important here. Each one of them has its own biology, so each one of them is found in different places, different parts of the district, at different times during the summer season. Also, if you look at the lower left, you can see there are 6 mosquito-borne diseases listed there. This is the new kid on the town, Jamestown Canyon, and I'll give you a little more details about 3 of these shortly. But again, in being able to protect the public from disease, you have to know which mosquitoes are involved and its biology, which tells you where to find it, and then you know how to control it. We use 3 materials for larval control. The vast majority of our control is larval control. When the mosquitoes are in the water, they can't get away from you. If you can find them, you can control them. BTI is a bacterium that was isolated from mosquitoes in Israel in the 1960s. It is specific to mosquitoes. It's very effective against the mosquito larvae. It's put on corn cob, ground up corn cob. We put that into the water. The mosquitoes feed on the bacterium and it kills them. It's so specific to mosquitoes that it can't hurt anything else. It can't develop in anything else. There are different strains of this bacterium that are very specific to caterpillars or very specific to other insects. So it's a really useful tool. From the environmental standpoint, it stays in the site for a day and disappears, which is great for not hurting anything else. On the other hand, if you get 1 week rain a week, you have to go back and treat again each time because the material doesn't last. Spinosad is another biological, and it's similar to BTI in that it came from a bacterium, but it works a different way, so it helps us with resistance management. It's formulated in a slow-release granule that is placed in the sites before the mosquito larvae are in the sites, and then when the rains come, the granule releases the active when the larvae are there, and it controls the larvae. That material is also very specific, and more specific because of the formulation and the way it's delivered, but that material can control up to 4 different hatches of mosquitoes, so it's useful in that sense. Methoprene works a little differently. It's something called a biorational. When the mosquito goes through its development, there are 2 hormones that control whether the mosquito remains a larva or switch to a pupal development, and it's the relative ratios of those 2 hormones. The methoprene is a mimic. It's a chemical that's like the hormone that makes the mosquito stay a larva, and so when they're older larvae trying to become pupae, that hormone disrupts that change and controls the mosquitoes that way. It's also very specific, and it's a longer release formulation. Okay. So what have we done here now? There we go. We augment our larval control with adult control. 70,000 wetlands. We can't get to all the wetlands all the time when we have to. On the other hand, the vast majority is larval control. Then we clean up what we can't get to with adult control. We use 2 different methods. One is called a barrier treatment. What you do is, when I said we had 30,000 woodlots or woodlands mapped, some of the vector species are known to live in some of those woodlands, so you can go do surveillance there, collect the mosquitoes there, identify them, and use adult control and some other methods to control the vector mosquitoes in those areas. For annoyance mosquitoes in your yard, if you have a hedge, mosquitoes don't like sunlight. They'll dry out and die, so they hide in shady places. If you treat those shady places, you can control the mosquitoes. And you can also make very small area treatments and have a great impact on the mosquitoes in a local area. The other way to control mosquitoes is called ultra-low volume, and it's a special kind of sprayer that takes maybe 1.5 ounces of liquid, changes it into extremely small drops. You apply this fog to areas where mosquitoes are active, so normally it's at dusk or early in the evening. The fog impacts the mosquitoes, kills the mosquitoes, and the materials we use then disappear within a few hours. And it's sort of like BTI. It's specific because it does its job and it disappears. On the other hand, if you treat an area and there are a lot of mosquitoes in the surrounding areas, they can move in within a few days and you may have to treat again. So there's always this balancing act. I'd like to briefly review 3 mosquito-borne diseases and talk a little bit about the biology of the vector mosquitoes, because then it makes it easier to understand how we look for the mosquitoes and how we control them. La Crosse virus has been around for a long time. The disease is primarily a disease of children. Its vector is the tree hole mosquito. There's a new mosquito that came in about 10 years ago called the Japanese rock pool mosquito. That mosquito was also able to transmit La Crosse, but hasn't been implicated in La Crosse transmission in the district yet. The common factor is both of those mosquitoes develop in the same kinds of places. They develop in water and old tires. They can develop in tree holes. And by its name, Japanese rock pool, you can see if there were rocky areas that had depressions with water, the mosquitoes can develop there. So that gives you a clue where to look. We can render tree holes incapable of holding water. That will solve the problem. You can either fill them in with sand or in some cases, you can drill a hole and then the water drains out. The mosquitoes can't develop. You control the problems because the vectors can't be there. We collect old tires because old tires tend to be places where the mosquitoes develop. And also, if you transport those tires from place to place, you can take the vector with you in the tires and not even know it. Jamestown Canyon it's the new kid on the block as far as it's a disease that you may hear about in the media this year. It's been around for a long time. It's a very rare disease. It's very closely related to La Crosse encephalitis, but it is transmitted by different mosquitoes. La Crosse is primarily in children later in the summer. Jamestown Canyon can affect people of all ages, and Jamestown Canyon is seen throughout the mosquito season, which indicates that there are different vector mosquitoes. Not a lot is known about the vectors. It's rare, but it's widespread in Canada and the United States. I'll show you some case numbers shortly of La Crosse, Jamestown Canyon, and West Nile, showing how Jamestown Canyon's a little bit different the last 2 years than the other two. Jamestown Canyon is a natural disease. In other words, people are incidental hosts of the disease. When you're infected, basically it's a virus replicating inside of you. Normally the mosquitoes transmit Jamestown Canyon amongst deer, and it exists in deer. It's been found in bison, it's been found in cattle, it's been found in all sorts of animals that are related to deer. And 80 species seem to be, especially the spring group, seem to be the potential vectors here. Again, it's very rare, so when you don't have very many cases to go on and you almost never find an infected mosquito, it's really difficult to pinpoint. But if the caseload increases, then we'll get better information, and it may mean we change our program. West Nile virus, you're well aware of, is an imported disease. It came from Africa. It was brought into New York, and then it spread across the United States on its own. There are Culex mosquitoes in Africa that transmit it. It has a mimic natural cycle here. In Africa, it's in birds, and the Culex mosquitoes there transmit it from bird to bird. The same thing happens here, but there are different similar birds, crows and blue jays you've probably heard of as part of dead bird surveys. One thing about West Nile virus that's useful with the birds is it kills a lot of the birds. So if from week to week you start seeing more and more dead birds, and they're particular types of birds, blue jays or crows, that's a clue that something is going on with West Nile virus, and we can use that information to then target our surveillance a little differently if we need to. You can test the birds for West Nile. Typically, West Nile shows up in birds and mosquitoes, and we test both a week or two before it tends to show up in humans, so it does give you an advanced warning. Here are the cases of La Crosse. In 2016, there were 3 cases in Minnesota. It's very rare. In 2017, there was 1 case. West Nile is similar except more, 83 cases in 2016, 23 cases in 2017. Jamestown Canyon, on the other hand, looks like it's going up rather than going down. And 6 cases, again, 6 cases out of 6 million people, or 14 cases out of 6 million people aren't a lot. On the other hand, in Wisconsin, it went from, say, 15 or so cases in 2016 to over 40 in 2017. We don't know what's going to happen in 2018, but if you hear about it in the news media, I'm trying to set the stage so you have an idea of what it is. The district deals with more than just mosquito control. We're mandated to control ticks. There is no cost-effective way to control ticks. There are ways to do it, but they're $10,000 to $50,000 an acre, and they involve environmental impact that probably wouldn't be acceptable to people here. On the other hand, there are lots of ways to protect yourself from ticks. we have a tick surveillance program that involves trapping rodents. The rodents are the host of the ticks. The rodents are also the animals that most tick-borne diseases exist in naturally. So by testing the ticks and testing the rodents, you can get an idea of what the risk to people is. The ticks go through different developmental stages. The second developmental stage is the most dangerous to people because it's the most likely to be infected, and it's also the hardest to see if it's on you. So it's easy to be bitten by one of those and not even know it. It's the nymphal stage. We can pick those up on the rodents at the time when people become higher risk and let the public know, and that's when Mike gets to communicate using as many different routes as are available to him to let the public know that. We also control biting gnats in the rivers and in the streams. We use a different formulation of BTI to control the biting gnats. The larvae are in the water, they're stationary, they're filter feeders. The liquid formulation spreads out in the water and they're exposed to it in the water. Biting gnats are very closely related to mosquitoes, which is why BTI works for biting gnats, although if we tried the formulation that works on mosquitoes in rivers, it wouldn't work against biting gnats and vice versa. So a lot of it is how you deliver it. You have to get the material to the organism you're trying to control. Finally, we don't plan major changes in 2018. We've always got the same goal you've got. Manage your budgets with a goal of maximizing the services you can deliver. With us, it's mosquito control and black fly control and tick surveillance. With you, it's all sorts of different things, but we all deal with the same concepts. One of our primary responsibilities is to protect the public from disease, from vector-borne disease, and especially when new things come in, letting people know how they can protect them and learning as much as we can about it so we can alter our program if we need to more effectively protect the public. Since 2010, we've had 4 really wet years, wetter than we've ever had before. So it was 2010, 2014, 2015, and 2016. The district's funding and reserves have always been designed to deal with variation from year to year, but we may have to make some changes in the future to help us be able to survive greater variation, because that seems to be what's happening with the rainfall. We've had a sustainability program at the district for a long time, and it started out as saving more energy or composting more or reducing our trash flow. And those things have been successful, but what we really want to do is take it to the next level. We had some injuries. It's about 4 years ago, we had more injuries than usual in the field, and we came up with some safety measures and a safety program to deal with those, and we're able to significantly reduce those injuries. And it's now become the safety culture of the district. We plan to take sustainability and make sustainability a culture at the district, because ultimately it's about most efficiently using your resources, and
Find out soon.
it's just good common sense. Finally, we've had about 10% turnover in the last 3 years based on retirements. We also have 3 more retirements impending this year that we know of, and their main people are our lead entomologist, a field operations supervisor, and probably the assistant entomologist, and we just had our accounting manager retire. So there's a lot of turnover, but there's a lot of opportunity for us to reevaluate the job positions, look at when they were created and how they were designed and what our needs are now. And with that, I will take any questions.
Anyone have any questions or comments? Okay. Not, well, thank you so much for all of your hard work and effort in ensuring that you provide safety in an effective, efficient manner for the public. And just a reminder to everybody to make sure that they get rid of those tires. I know you guys collect a lot of them each and every year. So thank you for your great work.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your time this morning. We really appreciate being able to come and review our story with you, and thank you for the support.
Thank you.
Thank you. also just wanted to make note that the next stop of our top secret project, Decoding the Mysteries of the Teen Domain, is Thursday, February 22nd, from 6 to 8:30 at St. Francis High School. I just have to say, if you have not been able to attend one of these, make this a priority. It is not just about opioid use or drug use. It really covers the gamut of some of the issues that teens may be dealing with. And so I would just encourage you to go take an opportunity to walk through this free, full-size mock-up of a typical teen's bedroom and try to spot some of the dozens of everyday items that could be cause for concern. Plus, there's a very powerful presentation and discussion with the Hazelton Betty Ford Foundation staff. They've done an amazing job. And again, St. Francis High School, February 22nd from 6 to 8:30. There also will be youth activities for grades 5 and up. So you have someone from, I think, Know the Truth or one of the other organizations. They'll have pizza, drawings, guest speakers to talk about the risks of drug use and other things. And then again, the adult activities. So encourage you to go onto our website and sign up today. And with that, we will move on to the rest of our agenda. So the first item is Management Committee report. Commissioner West.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The regular agenda is informational, but we have an additional agenda here that is Resolution 2018 M1. It's a resolution approving the tentative agreement between the County of Anoka and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 49, representing the Highways and Parks Maintenance Unit for the calendar years 2018 to 2020. And this is a 3-year agreement, which we haven't seen a lot of in the past, but is happening a lot now. And there are several levels of wage increase agreements on it. And I'd like to offer the resolution.
Okay, resolution's been offered. Is there a second?
Second.
And with that, let's do a roll call vote on this.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, sorry.
Just for discussion, Madam Chair, on the previous contracts that have come before us here, I've certainly reserved my comments because although I didn't agree with some of the different negotiated outcomes, I decided that I would agree at that time to approving, at least my vote, that portion of the contract. Unfortunately, what I've seen is a unwillingness to be a team, in my opinion. We've gotten form letters complaining about things. We've had disgruntled attitudes. We've had general dissatisfaction. I would say a spirit of malcontent is prevalent, particularly in this group. And I'm not sure if it's the leadership that's trying to start these fires and get the employees agitated because it's them against us or whatever the issue is. It's not them against us. It's all of us together. And we're trying to serve the constituents together. And so I've become increasingly not happy with the way that the outcome, you approve a contract and halfway into it you start getting disgruntled comments. This year is going to be a very tough budget year, and in my opinion, this negotiated outcome is not protecting the taxpayer. In one case here, you can get up to 5.5% increase. I don't know anyone that's getting 5.5% increase when you add the merit and you add the general increase together. So from that standpoint, I'm not reserving my comments this time, and I'm going to oppose this.
Okay, further discussion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Schulte.
I will support this. I'm thrilled that it's a 3-year contract. I do agree that if we do annual contracts, we have malcontent and conversation starting midway through the contract that seem to perpetuate right through the end of the contract, which brings us into another 6-month span, and it's kind of a cycle that's really hard to overcome. A 3-year contract, I think, dispels a lot of that. I think we can get these guys working, guys and gals working, and get good, solid efforts and get projects done. I think, are they deserving of this increase? I mean, we have division managers that are in charge of that and leads in divisions that can be, held accountable for their work. And I, for one, would hope that at some point, government employees are paid the same as private sector, and I would hope that whether it's a package of benefits or whether it's a wage, that it all balances out in the end. It's always been my goal. And I think this contract gets us one step closer to that. I couldn't agree with Commissioner Look anymore that we're all accountable to the taxpayer. And all of these decisions we make, we need to be accountable to the taxpayer. But that's more than just financial. We also need to be accountable to make sure that the projects are getting done, that the roads are plowed properly, that the signal techs are keeping the signals working the way they're supposed to. And so I think it's more than just wages, it's more than just this negotiation. I think it's a big package, and we have to look at that whole picture when we make these decisions. So I will be supporting the resolution.
Commissioner Gamache.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support this as well. I think the 3-year contract is a good step, understanding that we're seeing increases with the economy seeming to be improving, and I want to make sure that we're able to keep the good people that we have now working for us and not losing them to other cities and counties, and also losing them to the private sector. Many trucking industries are offering large bonuses, free health care, all these different things are being offered now because of the trucking industry is suffering to find good drivers. So I think that gives us an option in order to hold on to some folks and keep them here and working for us. So I'll be supportive of this as well.
Other discussion, Commissioner.
Madam Chair, I can't help but comment. I will tell you that I think that too often in this county, we tend to lag behind at least some of the other counties in the metropolitan area. It's historic, but I would tell you, in my view, it's true. When you look at other counties, when you look at their steps, when you look at their compensation ratios, so many times they're just always a step ahead of us. I've never been happy with that, but I understand the nature of that. I think it's important, we talk all the time about attracting people to Anoka County, and we know too many arenas where we have trouble doing that because of our current compensation structure. We're anxious to retain people. We boast about their accomplishments. We're so pleased and proud of their outcomes that we have, and I think we're proud of what they do. I want to make sure that we hang on to them, that we treat them fairly, and certainly it would appear to me that they're serving our needs very well, so I certainly will intend on supporting this as well, Madam Chair. Thank you.
I would just comment, for clarification's sake, that the merit improvement is up to 3%. And what Commissioner Look was referring to when he said, somebody could get 5.5%. We have a program countywide called market rate adjustment. So we take those particular job classifications, and when we do a study and identify certain positions that are significantly lower than what the market would entail, and in order to bring them up to really where we think they should be, we utilize that market rate adjustment to do that. And that is specific to really just really a couple of positions within this contract that were significantly lower than maybe they should have been, and the market rate adjustment is specifically identified to do that. So it's not that people are getting that across the board. It is really taking a look at those positions that, in looking at the market, are significantly lower than what we would see in other places. The other thing to keep in mind is I'm very actively involved in a metropolitan workforce council. And when we take a look at the market and the worker shortage out there, we are anticipating by the year, I think it's 2020, there's going to be a workforce shortage of over 120,000 people in the metropolitan area alone. If you take a look statewide, I think that goes up to like 248,000 or something. It is incredible. So we, as a county and really as a state, are going to have to take a look at what can we do to ensure that we streamline our processes, because there just won't be enough workers out there and available, but then also taking a look at what can we do to make sure that we're holding on to those people who provide some of those core services like snow plowing and other things. So I will be supporting this.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner.
It is based, the guide used was what we have already given the non-union employees. So it is very similar to what we've already agreed for the rest of our employees.
Madam Chair, for clarification, this is the 3-year, we have not given the other employees a 3% raise over the subsequent 2 following years. And so, while it may be for the 1 year, that's true, but not for the 2 up-and-coming years, so. But what this does is it drives that. It drives that. And that forces our hand on tough budget years. And if people want to see large levy increases, this is one way of doing it. I'm opposed to it.
Okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner Cardiac,
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Opposed.
Motion carries. There,
Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
all right, thank you. Then we'll move on to Transportation Committee report. Commissioner Schulte.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our committee had the opportunity to meet on February 5th here in the Government Center. We have for you 8 action items, 2 of which are in transit, 6 of which will be in highway. The first 2 items in transit both have to do with the generosity of people from Anoka County. The first is the committee would recommend approval of a resolution accepting donations pursuant to the family's request and in honor of Jerry Heyer's longtime dedication and service for funding the MedLink Volunteer Driver Program. Well, the next one is the committee would recommend a resolution accepting a gift memorial to Anoka County MedLink in honor of the late Myrtle Glassbrenner, again for funding the MedLink Volunteer Driver Program. I would assume we could do those 2 resolutions together.
Let's do them separate just because I think a special acknowledgement, it is very heartwarming and kind of rare that people really show their appreciation for some of the great programs and services that are provided by our many volunteers. And so I think let's take those separately. So if you are offering the first resolution,
I am.
okay, further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Cardiac,
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Motion carries. Next one,
The next one is in honor of Myrtle Glassbrenner, and again to the MedLink Volunteer Driver Program, and I would offer that resolution.
resolution has been offered. Further discussion.
Madam Chair, I don't remember which one, but one of them is someone who served by giving rides, and the other is someone who received the rides.
Right,
So I thought that was nice.
that's nice, yeah. And roll call vote.
Commissioner Silveraja,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Cardiac,
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
We'll move on to highway then. The committee recommends approval of a resolution authorizing the sale of the county property located at 8359 Viking Boulevard in Nowthen, Minnesota.
I'll offer it.
Resolution's been offered. Further discussion.
Madam Chair, I would just comment that this is kind of the second run at this one. We had a publication issue the first time we attempted to sell this, and the same party that was interested then is interested now.
Okay, great. Roll call vote?
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Kodiak,
All right.
Commissioner Silveraja,
Aye. Motion carries.
Next, the committee would recommend approval of a resolution setting the 2018 spring weight restrictions on the county highways system. I would say that this is a little different than last year, only in its timing, in that because we've had such a hard freeze this winter and over an extended period of time, the frost will come out of the ground later, so spring weight restrictions will go on later and probably last longer. But with that said, I would offer the resolution.
Resolution's been offered. Further discussion. Commissioner Kodiak.
Yeah, comment, Madam Chair, there's two things annually. I look at my calendar, I look forward to. One of them is Christmas, and the other is the setting of the weight restrictions. Both are a hallmark of the academy. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, I would just respond, I look much more forward to the weight restrictions coming off, because that means projects are getting started and underway for summer construction season.
I give you that.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
The committee recommends approval of a resolution authorizing the acquisition of right-of-way for the signal construction of Lexington Avenue and Broadway Avenue in the city of Ham Lake and the city of Columbus.
I will offer the resolution. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Kodiak,
All right.
Commissioner Silveraja,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
The committee recommends approval of a resolution authorizing Anoka County to enter into a local road improvement program, or LRIP, agreement with MnDOT for the Hanson Boulevard Railroad Grade Separation Project over Hanson Boulevard in Coon Rapids. And I would offer the resolution.
Okay, is there further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Kodiak,
All right.
Commissioner Silveraja,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
The committee recommends approval of a resolution authorizing the preparation of a highway right-of-way plat for Broadway Avenue from east of Potomac Street to Kettle River Boulevard in the city of Columbus.
I will offer the resolution. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
The committee recommends approval to enter into a joint powers agreement with the city of Lexington for the Lake Drive access improvements from Naples Street to Lexington Avenue.
I will offer the resolution, or I'll actually move that. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Kodiak,
All right.
Commissioner Silveraja,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And Madam Chair, under informational items, I would like to make a special point of item 9. The committee was, I hate to use the word forced into, but required to grant the division, the highway division, the right to go out for an emergency bid on our bridge, our land bridge on County Road 14. We had extensive discussion on, what could have caused it, what may have caused it, and what our alternatives were for repairs. And with the county engineer with us today, perhaps we could get an update on where we are in that project so the public can plan appropriately for their spring travels.
Okay.
Doug?
Doug?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioner Schulte, County Board members. My name is Doug Fisher. I'm the Transportation Division Manager and County Engineer. With that authorization that Commissioner Schulte spoke about last Monday, we immediately worked on what I'd call a remediation set of plans to quickly repair the damage section of that bridge so we could get it open to the public as soon as possible. What that authorization did, working under emergency guidelines, purchasing guidelines, we could, instead of having to do a traditional advertisement and sealed bids, we're able to prepare those plans, get them in the hands of contractors, and receive quotes. So the plans were prepared and approved early last week. They've been in the hands of contractors, and we've been discussing the details of those plans and specifications with 3 contractors that we select that we feel can do the work correctly and quickly. We are receiving their quotes for that work. Our deadline for that is noon tomorrow. So hopefully that pending the receipt of those quotes, that we'll actually be able to execute a contract even as soon as the end of business day tomorrow. Then we'll also have that information on when they'll be able to start that bridge. Essentially, they're going to have to remove a large section of the bridge deck, get into the pier caps of 2 of the pier caps that are spanning that section of bridge deck, kind of do some modifications on those pier caps to receive a new bridge deck that'll be poured. So it is very complicated work, and again, the bridge will have to remain closed until we're able to get that work done. We're still hopeful that pending the delivery of rebar and some other items that will need to be fabricated and ordered, we still be able to get this bridge open, hopefully by late March, early April at the latest. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that we get some good quotes tomorrow afternoon and get that construction started as soon as we possibly can.
And Madam Chair, I would just finish up by saying, the reason I brought this up was a few people have contacted me in regards to you close the road and nothing's going on. Nobody's fixing anything. And I understand that perception, and I wanted to make it very clear that we have fast-tracked this. We are moving approvals just as fast as possible. Engineering had to be approved through MnDOT. There's a number of processes, but they are being fast-tracked, and you will see activity out there in the coming weeks. And I just want the public to know, I've said it before, we don't close roads lightly. This is not something we want to do. We did it because we have to. We're going to make the road safe. That's our end game, and it is happening behind the scenes as fast as you could ever imagine. It just doesn't look like it when you drive by. So I want the public to know that we are working hard at it. With that, Madam Chair, that does conclude my report.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you sharing that information. I think it is definitely important to make sure that the public's well aware of what's happening. Okay, I will move on to the Intergovernmental and Community Relations Committee Chair Report. We have one item on this agenda. It is the Chair recommends the County Board adopt Resolution IG 2018-01, affirming Anoka County support for state capital investment for regional behavioral health crisis program facilities and permanent supportive housing for people with behavioral health needs. As you know, we have talked at this county board for years about the number of people who are often diverted to jails and other facilities that really are ill-equipped to handle some of those needs. Also recognize that we end up with people in the regional treatment center. They're not able to leave because we don't have a place to put them. And then we are responsible for 100% of those costs. So there are really great needs within the mental health system. And so very supportive of, I think, Senator Senjum's initiative to look at creating regional behavioral health crisis program facilities. And so would like to move forward with that support. So I will offer the resolution. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Now we'll move on to Parks and Community Services Committee report. Commissioner Cordia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are a few items that we can bring forward today. I'll take each of them individually. Andy Softball is here. He might just join me. There might be a question we'll ask in just a moment. The first couple are pretty straightforward. You recognize that we're doing a Veterans Memorial Project at the Coon Lake Beach area. And this is a donation that we have received among a couple of others, as I recall. This one's from the VFW Post 6316. And in the absence of Commissioner Brasted, I'll offer the resolution.
Okay, resolution's been offered, and obviously very appreciative of that gift and appreciate the great work that is being done, and really initiated by a member of the community, which is also kind of neat, so.
And we'll comment, Madam Chair, that the combination of donations pretty much cover the cost of that entire installation, so we appreciate that.
Great.
We're grateful.
All right, roll call vote.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Sebraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Memorial benches offer a place of comfort and solace in our Rod Park system. This is a donation, resolution regarding accepting monies for a memorial bench located in the Rum River Central Regional Park. We're happy to entertain that.
Is there an offer for the resolution?
Offer it.
Resolution's been offered. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Sebraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
And additional, Madam Chair, speaking of memorial benches, this one might be located at Bunker Hills Regional Park System, and we're pleased again to accept that. I will offer it.
Resolution's been offered. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Sebraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
All right.
Motion carries. Next item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I might ask Andy, as best as he can, to talk about this a little bit. This is a project that our bunker, our wave pool, our Bunker Beach area is so pretty and so colorful, and we're so very pleased. It does well for us. But we need to maintain its luster. I think this is a project that might help to guarantee its continued luster and appearance to our park's visitors. Can you comment further about what we're doing here?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kordiak, fellow commissioners, before you is the award of bid for renovations of our Bunker Beach water slides. As you can see, the pictures in the middle of the presentation there, the slides that you can see, the pinkish color were originally red when we installed them, which is kind of the nature of the beast of being exposed to the Minnesota winters. So as those slides and the equipment is exposed to the weather, exposed to our heavy visitorship, and exposed to the different chemicals that we need to operate the pool safely, it does cause wear and tear on those slides, both inside and outside. What we are doing with this renovation project would be to have a company come out. They'll be providing a new gel coat on those, similar to you would see on other aquatic applications, boats and other fiberglass type materials, to help keep that surface smooth, keep it from getting brittle, and then also will enhance and revitalize that color throughout the fiberglass structures. They'll also look at some of the structural elements and repainting the stairways and the metal support bracing as well, that does show some signs of rusting and some pitting that needs to be addressed to ensure long-term structural stability for those structures. So we're looking at renovating our slides, and then also our adventure pool, which is very heavily used by our younger demographic of kids. It's a zero depth entry pool, and those has some fiberglass slides as well that would look to be renovated to enhance those same type of safety elements.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move it.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Sebraja.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee does recommend that County Board enter into a delegation agreement, once again, with the Department of Natural Resources. This is pretty much an annual thing regarding watercraft inspections. They provide some resources to allow us to get out there and monitor boating activity to make sure that people are safe and sound and enjoying their presence in our park system. It's a motion, I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second?
Further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner?
I would just comment anecdotally that this program has been well received by Anoka County residents using the waterways. I've had great response from people saying they were at the boat landing and somebody was educating them about milfoil, and they weren't getting tickets, they were getting an education. And I think that's really important, that Anoka County continues that process. And I mean, eventually, if you have to tell somebody 13 times, you better write them a ticket. But in the meantime, that education's an important tool to get them past that one or two times before they really understand what they're doing. So I want to thank the Parks Department and under Commissioner Kordiak's leadership that they continue to do that great job of education when it comes to not just milfoil, but all of the invasive species.
Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think Andy and I might like to introduce Maggie Yak. Maggie might come forward. She's our public information planning and policy specialist. She's been with the county for a reasonable time now and been doing a very fine job for us in the Recycling and Resource Solution Department. I think she was kind of a key coordinator in the development of our master plan. As I recall, this is the master plan directed by the Metropolitan Council, required every 6 years. They set their vision and goals regarding recycling in the region. They then looked at counties to try and model their own planning processes to mimic that. We've worked with the same staff, the team that meets monthly for a long time now, of all of our city recycling coordinators. Many of those members are on this committee to help work up that plan. They steadfastly worked on that over time, and with the guidance of Maggie and Sue Dahl, maybe our Dan Disrood, we completed that plan. It's a long and lengthy process. It's been out there, been back to them to review, and I think that we're ready to consider submitting that plan. If Maggie, you can add to that and kind of outline where you think we're at today, we're getting close.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you, Commissioner Kordiak, for the introduction. The Waste Management Planning Framework, Metropolitan Solid Waste Management Policy Plan, or Policy Plan, establishes the framework for the development of the county solid waste management master plan. The policy plan is the catalyst for the county to update our master plan to come into compliance. The process occurs every 6 years. The county board appointed an advisory committee led by Commissioner Kordiak to provide input and feedback as we drafted our plan. Some of the goals of the plan are to protect the environment and public health, conserve natural resources, manage waste in accordance with the integrated waste management system, manage waste in a cost-effective manner and minimize long-term financial liability, work with generators on recycling and reuse business models, and empower residents and businesses to manage waste properly. And you can see the chart here. We have our the state goals that we are needing to meet in the next decade or so. Some of the key themes of the master plan are waste as a resource, the solid waste management hierarchy, generator responsibility, government as a leader, private sector initiative, working collaboratively with municipalities and the private sector, and an emphasis on the remaining material in the trash for recycling and organics recovery. Okay, so
You said?
that's
Okay.
it.
That's a very short summary, but a very long process. But that is what's being proposed today and forwarded to Met Council. And can I offer the resolution?
Absolutely. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Appreciate that.
Peggy, thank you and your team. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, now we'll move on to Property Records and Taxation Committee Chair Report. Commissioner Kordiak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let's take a look at that for a second. This is pretty straightforward today. This is coming from me to you. We've had some discussions about that in our committee and maybe some of the board activities. Who would like to speak to this today? Janelle's here. We could. This is an action being proposed. You recognize that we've, well, if would, Janelle, can you comment about this? And you are?
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioner Kordiak, and members of the County Board. I am Janelle Sawyer, Division Manager for Property Records and Taxation. I believe the first action item is the a split by school district, am I correct? And This is just a typical, we have parcel that has a school district line running through the property. It's the desire of the property owners to put both pieces of the property in one school district. And in this case, I believe it's in School District 12, and that is their request.
Yes, that's correct, Madam Chair. I had yellow scribbles all over the other one. I jumped to that, but thank you, sir.
Right, I will,
Yeah, I have that. And Madam Chair, can I offer that resolution? We've seen these before.
okay, resolution's been offered. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you would continue into next item, which I'm fully ready for. Go ahead.
Okay, the next item is, we have applied for a state voting equipment grant, and the state has awarded these grants, and we need to accept our award if we would like to purchase poll books as we had applied for in our grant. The amount of the grant to Anoka County is $237,825.81. It would require us to match that grant with a minimum of $79,270.27. Although to purchase the poll books, we will likely need to spend more than that.
And I will offer the resolution, and again, just to clarify to my fellow board members, this is just acceptance of the grant, recognizing that minimum requirement, and I don't think we've made a determination yet as to the full purchase or not. So I will offer the resolution. Further discussion?
Yeah, can I comment, Madam Chair? Can you clarify with the board? I'm not sure that everybody here understands the use and utility of this polling equipment. Can you remind us just kind of what it might be, how it might benefit us?
Certainly. When you go in to vote, you need to be registered, and one of the processes is usually, in Anoka County now, we have a report that's printed out, and you have to find the election judge needs to find your name on that, and you have to sign the poll book to say that you're voting at that precinct, and that ensures that you're in the correct precinct and that you're only voting once. This poll equipment would be replacing that with an electronic system, using iPads or some such equipment and software. And what that enables us to do is that people that have registered maybe through the mail, instead of having to send that information to the polling places like the day of the election, and then they need to add those registrations into the poll book manually, these will be transmitted electronically, and then it also allows people to instead of looking for their name, they could either scan their driver's license or something like that in order to find their name on the poll books. And also the same-day registrations, it will allow those to be uploaded without us having to do all that manually inputting after the election.
I can comment, Madam Chair, this will not serve the needs of every single person that comes to vote, but it will serve the needs of many of them. It can help to confirm and validate people that are registered, quickly register those that may not be, and help to validate their presence at the voting location. So we're pleased. I think we'll speed up the process and continue to improve and validate it. Thank you.
Okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Kodiak,
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the last item is to consider reappointing Robin West to the Anoka County Community Action Program, representing the public sector for a 3-year term expiring February of 2021. And I will move approval. Is there a second?
Second?
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We have to abstain. On the board.
Yeah, please.
And we've got one abstention.
Yeah.
Okay, motion carried. Further discussion? Anything else to come before the county board?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Can I just make a quick comment? We
Absolutely.
talked a little bit about on the property tax, and I just wanted to First of all, thank our folks down on the property tax, especially Alex Guggenberger, who helped me with some information regarding some issues. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because of the fact that we just had a homeowner's property that was split by 2 school districts. In the northern part of Andover, there are some issues rising up again, as they have in the past, because that portion of Andover goes to the St. Francis School District. And I think some information might have gotten to a resident and they were confused. Alex has explained it to them, exactly how it works. But the reason why we approved this one was because it is on the border. They're 2 pieces of, 2 separate properties, I believe it is, and they have the border running right through them. And they want to be in one school district or the other school district. They don't want to split it. Makes sense. It's not quite that easy for people that live in a portion, like I'm saying, just to, for example, Andover, to say, because you live in this district, we can move you down to the other school district because you're a mile away. There's other properties in between you, and that's the issue that we're dealing with in this case. And I know that it'll probably come up again in 10 years, because it's usually on a 10-year cycle, that people wonder why they were going to this school district when they live in this city. And school districts are a whole separate ballgame. The county doesn't really have a lot to do with that unless you maybe live on the county, on the border between the 2 school districts. So in case that, if someone says, hey, you just changed it, how come you told me I couldn't? This is the difference on this one. But thank you to the property tax people for explaining it and doing a great job, and they explained it well. Thanks. Thank you for the time. Cool.
And thank you for bringing that up. Further things to come before the county board? If not, meeting is adjourned.
Regional.